You are listening to Resonating with Emmet O'Malley. Support this podcast by signing up at patreon.com/Emmet O'Malley. That's Emmet with one T. My patrons receive one exclusive podcast per week on Patreon called Private Pod, as well as monthly music and videos that cannot be accessed anywhere else. So become a patron of this show by signing up at patreon.com/Emmet O'Malley today. Also, I ask that you subscribe to and follow this podcast on whatever platform you listen on. Just hit that subscribe or follow button. Please give me a review and a rating on Apple Podcasts, which helps enormously in some technical way I don't understand, but it does help. Subscribe on youtube.com/Emmet O'Malley Music and follow on Facebook, Instagram and TikTok, all at Emmet O'Malley Music. Hello people, you're very welcome to Resonating with Emmet O'Malley. It's so nice to start this podcast in such a way with an interview with Boy Meets Girl, that is Shannon Rubicam and George Merrill. They have been writing songs and performing in their band since the early 1980s. They have had an incredible career as Boy Meets Girl, but they've also written incredible songs for example, Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me, and How Will I Know. Also, their own kind of monster hit at the end of the 80s was Waiting for a Star to Fall. So I'm going to talk to them about all of that stuff, as well as their new EP 5, which they just released a couple of days ago. And it's on all the streaming services everywhere that you listen to music. But just check that out, Boy Meets Girl 5. A beautiful record. Just a great example of two songwriters with a wealth of experience, with beautiful poetry running through, carefully crafted melodies and orchestration. It's just a beautiful piece of work. So check that out, the new EP from Boy Meets Girl. It's out now, and it was such a privilege to get to talk to them about it all. My history with Shannon and George goes back about 5 years because I wanted to make a documentary about them. I've loved their music ever since I was a kid. And then when I realized, they wrote that song and then they wrote this song as well, I just became fascinated, and I reached out to them and I emailed them, and they hadn't been working together for a little bit of time. And so we ended up having this interesting conversation. It just kind of evolved over a period of months. And then I was working in a film company that myself and my good friend Clive Tanner were running at the time, called Waking Hour Films. And we were making a series of short documentaries called Portraits. And they're available actually on YouTube. If you go to youtube.com/Waking Hour Films, you'll see Portraits there. Anyway, I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful to have Shannon and George as one of our documentaries? And then the project became about something else. We kind of evolved it, and we're really excited, and we booked the flights. We were going to LA, we were going to San Francisco, we were going to go over and shoot with them for 2 weeks. And being the very good little boy that I am, I made sure that we were, okay, let's go and get our visas, our international work visas, to go and, do this properly, just in case there's any problems, even though this was just something for basically an experiment to see how it went. It wasn't like funded by any, major broadcaster or anything like that. We were just kind of doing it because we really wanted to do it. And we applied for official professional work visas, temporary work visas, to go over and do this for 2 weeks. And we were rejected. So we couldn't actually travel to the States to do the documentary, but we had formed this beautiful friendship and relationship, which was really cool, And we tried a number of different types of visas and tried a lot of different things over the years, but, it just didn't work out in the end. And it's funny that it took a pandemic and the limitations of not being able to really be in contact physically with anybody in the world to kind of prompted me to realize, well, why can't I just talk to Shannon and George in a podcast for now? Why can't we just do it this way? And they were so cool about doing it, and they had music coming out as well, so it all lined up perfectly. So this is something that's a very special conversation for me, and I hope you all enjoy it too. Here is my conversation with Boy Meets Girl. That is Shannon Rubicam and George Merrill.
Well, it wasn't Takamine, that little Washburn-y kind of. He calls it a salon guitar because it's smaller in size, and they used to play them, in the 1920s around living rooms and campfires and things.
Very nice.
Oh, Emmet, this guitar is one of the most beautiful inlaid old guitars. When I first met Shannon, she used to play this guitar. It was a lovely sounding, unique sounding guitar too.
That's awesome. It's great you still have it, and you're like, oh yeah. So are you getting it kind of
I built it up a little.
Kind of, yeah.
He took care of the frets that were sticking out because of the neck shrinks over time. The wood shrinks in on itself, so the frets start to stick out the edges and cut your fingers.
Right.
So he filed those down just outside his home, while I sat on the stool and watched. And
how cool.
And he said, yeah, it's a parlor guitar. It's over 100 years old. He said it's very valuable because it's made of rosewood, and it's just got this funky little sound. I love it. So
it is, and it really projects when you play it. Yeah,
he said that's a feature of those little guitars. Is they have that.
We still have Shannon's early recordings, and a couple of those. There was one. I remember. I could if I took the time, I could remember the songs. But there were a couple of them that I know that you were using that guitar because it's this really. You were doing finger picking with that one.
Yeah, all the early ones. That's what I had. So
there's something incredible about like the life of a guitar, like over time, the resonance and the sound. Like the guitar that I use, like it's it's probably about 20 years old or something. Not very old, but it's it was really it's a Takamine. It's a really kind of a middle of the range kind of guitar when I got it. I just needed it I was doing a lot of comedy at the time when I got it, so I was using this electroacoustic guitar.
I didn't expect that you would say what you said. Yeah, that was great.
But it was just like the best, most practical thing for this like comedy performance. It was fantastic.
Right.
But then I realized, I got more into the songwriting and stuff. I realized that over time, this guitar was getting more and more resonant, and now, if someone took that, if this place was like robbed, they could take the computer, they could take the gear, whatever it is, but that would break my heart because it just like nothing sounds. I'm sure your guitar like it like nothing sounds like it.
Yeah,
no.
Right.
Yeah, unique, and I think they all over time acquire that. Personal to them character,
Yes. Yeah. The song "Gone" on the new EP. That's a beautiful song, and I'm actually just listening to the EP the last few days. I was thinking about there is a lot of quite raw acoustic elements now in these new songs as well, like a little bit in Constellation Stars as well. There's a bit of banjo in there and stuff I hear. But Gone is I was really curious about that song because it's lovely to hear you like completely almost without a whole lot of accompaniment around it. There's guitar, there's voice, and it seems like a very very, very heartfelt song. Is it like something about loss, or it's really beautiful anyway. I loved it.
It's about death and grieving, actually. Yeah. It was written for a project where a character died. They ended up not using our song, but the character dies in the scene, and the partner of that character is walking down the street and just devastated,
just shattered.
So it is about that moment of realizing someone's actually was there 1 second, and the next second they're gone. And so it's about that.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And I think there's something about a song like that and a performance like that. It's like kind of showing a very vulnerable part of oneself, like as in this is something that like, for example, it's almost the kind of song that one would need to sit down and really cherish, like to really just take it in, like at a very intimate gig, or just what I used to do a lot, like driving home from gigs. That was my place for listening to music. Just put on, and I would put on very chilled, very intimate stuff, because I'm in, like, I'm not, like, the world isn't distracting me in that moment,
Right.
And
it's a time to give yourself some brain floss and separate from the all the public performance and
and just go inside and feel the rawness of that. It's all stripped down. We never even thought to embellish it because it didn't want it, really.
Yes.
We have an alternate version. I don't know if George sent you that, but we have some friends who did some background vocals and a little bit on it, just so that we would have the alternate version.
Yeah.
But the one that we did is very, very plain.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Shannon, I'm having a memory right now, and I'm wondering about Gone. Did I interpret your guitar part, and was it a song that you brought to us?
I did, yeah.
I think you did.
But you made some changes, and that sort of the awe part, figuring all that out. And then I didn't end up playing it because I am not as steady a rhythm player as you are. So you played that, yeah.
Well, it was, and that's what you hear is a live performance. We were in the studio, just we performed it as a take.
Beautiful.
I think we did it probably a number of takes as well, but but it was a live performance.
Yeah.
That now, as Shannon says, we have the mix engineer. He did a little enhancements around the section where you finally hear the word "gone." Through the Shannon kind of builds the tension through the whole thing. And it's only one place in the song, so.
Fantastic. Yeah, it provides a lovely kind of counterbalance, energetically to the EP as well, because, the EP is overall a bit of a journey, really, I'm actually even quite curious of the track listing now, because I've got the songs from you. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you both to send them on to me. But I'm really enjoying it. Like, it's kind of a journey to go on it. I wanted to just mention about Constellation Stars, because so basically what happens to me when I listen to music, when I'm really getting into it, I go visual immediately, That's where I go, and I come up with ideas for visual stuff when I'm listening to music, and that has some very very literal references, of course, to like voyaging, discovering new lands, or I what I pictured was basically George out at sea in this like old time kind of exploring vessel, and at the wheel, and it's one of those crystal clear nights, and all around this globe of stars everywhere, it's what comes to me when I listen to it, and Shannon's voice is like this ethereal force, just kind of guiding the mission, let's say.
She's a Selkie.
A Selkie, yes.
Okay.
That's a beautiful way to think of it, because that is kind of the way it is. And that's very similar to my vision of it. It's obviously analogous to many kinds of journeys and excursions through life, whether they're emotional, mental, intellectual, physical, whatever. But, they all take courage, because you're going into some kind of unknown or other.
Sure.
But it really started for me with your same image, and in mine, it's a midnight blue sky and stars, and then a dark inky surf and ocean, and then you can hear the waves breaking behind you, and you can know these other pillared waves are breaking into your new world.
Yes.
And I just
it's so fantastic. And like the EP in general is just it's just a really great testament to your artistry and your songwriting, your performance. Both of your voices are just incredible, incredibly beautiful, and kind of really those voices like belong together on this little journey. You know, it's just really. I think if anybody's interested in like songwriting, and anybody's really interested in like, I guess, themes and poetry through songs as well, this is an amazing journey to go on. Really, just this EP, just listen to it for a few weeks, just really embrace. I loved it anyway. It's just
high praise. I really appreciate that, Emmet.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It's a real it's a real pleasure. The other of course, More Deeply in Love with You is I wrote down here a joyful banger. That's what I wrote down. It's just amazing. Like it's got that like kind of energy, the very up positive and loving energy, you know, a lot of your stuff has. And I was trying to put my finger on that, like listening to your music over, you know, like the last few years, of course, since we first met, but like before that, again, with the songs that I knew, I recently had a little bit of a think to myself, like, what is the, like, I don't want to intellectualize things because I don't think it's about that, but just curiously, like, what is the essence that I'm hitting on, you know, when I get really excited about your music? And what it is, I've kind of come to guess today, basically, is that it's a sense of magic, you know. That's what I can put it down to. There's like a magic that lifts you up out of your kind of drab, you know, like life can be a bit of a trudge at times, you know, and that's, I think, the energy that comes through. It comes through all the stuff, like this EP, like those songs I just referred to, and I'm not talking about all the up stuff, but I'm getting somewhere here. There is kind of like a question here somewhere at the end.
Well, I have a question for you.
Yeah, please,
I was curious. Can you tell me about folks in Ireland and the UK? Do they whistle?
Yes. Now,
because whistling is like it was you know, we whistled on More Deeply in Love, and I didn't know if that was if that's like a common thing that people walk along with and you know, break into whistle.
Yeah. So on that point, I think it's unfortunately a dying art. Like I remember growing up as a kid, and there'd be someone, you know, doing the Eve shoots, or, you know, like, you know, painting the wall, or and everyone's a whistler. The postman's a whistler, you know, and and some people would be gifted at whistling, you know, and really amazing at it. But it just seems like people have kind of almost forgotten about it a little bit, you know.
Yes.
And it actually is such a cool element in that song, the whistle. Where did that come about, actually?
Well, I just it's funny because I was just trying to picture people walking down the street, just like you said. I didn't know if I have that image in America, but I didn't know if that was something that is commonplace. Shannon and I felt that it needed a signature up front.
And we don't play saxophone, so
I know. Let's see. Waiting for a Star to Fall. Saxophone, no. So we hit on. I think I was whistling a melody that I was hearing. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was going, yeah.
Nice.
And it's hard to be sad when you're whistling.
I know.
Yeah.
It was such a goofy thing. It's like I started busting up, and I did it, and Shannon and I were just thinking it's just goofy.
Yeah.
And that kind of ebullient sort of feeling was exactly what we were trying to do. So we thought, heck.
That's really
it's
cool.
going to take a number of takes, you know. You can hear it, right? I'm not really much of a whistler, but
you know, something that came to mind when you're talking about that there, because when you said goofy or whatever, I don't think it's goofy. I think it's like really cool. I think it's awesome, you know. But the thing is, like, there's a kind of a coolness that like a different kind of coolness that people kind of seem to think is like more important than like feeling good sometimes, like as in having like a good experience in a day, for example. Like sometimes I've been very uncool. Like I never really fit in with very cool people when I was growing up, you know, like as a musician or anything. I just couldn't do it, you know. It was very like kind of very trendy, very like, well, I'm into kind of this stuff now. Actually, you never heard of it, kind of, like, and you never will hear of it. Okay, and all that.
The more obscure, the better.
Yeah.
It's really good for conversation, isn't it?
Yeah. And just going back to the vulnerability thing, it's kind of like it's a little bit like it kind of, you know, a little bit kind of closed, like this is my little thing here. Whereas like if you're out there whistling and skipping down the street, somebody might like, you know, have a go at you at some point, you know, like it's taking the courage, you know, the risk, you know.
You over there, knock that off.
Yeah, exactly.
You're making me too happy.
Yeah. No, it's the thing I was kind of, I guess, touching on about the magic as well around, I remember seeing like let's say the video for How Will I Know when I was like a child, and my mom used to drop me off at my auntie's house on Saturdays when she'd go in to do the shopping basically, and I'd be just sitting there. They had the probably Top of the Pops or BBC and stuff, and we only had like the Irish channels back at home, and so it was like a world of music videos, you know. And I remember the like, you know, pink, you know, world of like How Will I Know. It's unbelievable. Like like that is
it's very bright and
yeah,
very,
and
very
it's kind of like that is
colored.
that like vulnerability out there. That is that like joy out there, and that is there. I don't really care what you think about this. This is what we're doing, and we love it. You know? And it's just powerful, you know. It's a powerful gift to be bringing that through so many projects and still doing it.
I think that's because we believe in magic. We both truly believe in and exercise the power of magic. You know, we're not talking black magic. We're talking synchronicity and coincidence and allowing all of those things to come in, and they come in and they feel magical. They feel like magic, which is why in the bridge of More Deeply, it says, life turns on magic. It does. If you allow it. That magic spark will happen in a moment. It might be visual. It might be in the form of a person or an event or something or a gift. And it can be life-changing. And so...
And you hit on something there, Shannon. It's a funny thing because... the word magic can have a darker connotation, like you made a delineation there. But magic is sort of the awe and wonder, and it actually goes back to what you were saying earlier about constellation stars and the idea of the darkness and the unknown. You know, magic kind of comes out of that. It's like it can be scary. It can cause fear and all those different things, but there's an awe and wonder there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to tap into.
It's like life or the universe is speaking directly to you, and they're saying, hey, do you see this? This is for you.
Yes.
And it's just one of those moments where you go, oh my God, it's true.
Yes. And it's kind of like the unknown as well, because there's awe involved. So it is like kind of the unknown. I don't understand this. Like I'm not computing this mathematically. Yeah. So it does require that that little courageous step as well.
The leap of faith.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. I was thinking today, one of the questions I wanted to ask you both about, before you really ever got started and before you ever really met, I'll actually do this question maybe one at a time. What were the dreams of, let's say, teenage Shannon Rubicam growing up? Like, what did you want when you were young? Like, what did you think you would be doing?
I was going to be a surgeon, actually.
Wow.
I wanted to be a doctor. I just felt this strong interest in the surgical aspect of, what was the physical body. And then I think just always I kind of felt like a healer. I just felt that want to be a healer,
Wow.
and help people to feel good.
Wow.
And I was an optimist. I was a very hopeful person. So that was early Shannon. And that sort
really
of morphed into music.
Really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting how it manifested for you,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
and as I've known you, you've always had an interest in different ways to be healthier,
Mm-hmm.
through eating and exercise and all those different things, right? So I mean, but I mean, like you've always had a focus on that.
Yeah, it's been an interest, but I feel like all that got channeled through music, and it's possible to, help people feel better through music, of course. So that's where it went. Mostly.
It is like an incredible mission statement. I want to heal people. I want to help people, and that can be done in so many different ways. And people sometimes maybe I don't know why people would be in any way of denial that music, for example, heals people, changes people, lifts people up. Like you see these, like in non-pandemic times, you see these like hundreds of thousands of people in these big groups just together, like listening to this kind of incredible noise that is music, these vibrations that are music, and they are there to be healed, and if there was an alien who like looking down at this or something, it'd be like they go for their treatment once every month to the gathering of sound.
They're in therapy. And they're having a revelation.
Yes. And teenage George Merrill, what was he dreaming about?
I in our grade schools, in our second grade, so I was 8 or 9 years old. I met someone in my class. His name was David, and he was born on the same day in the same hospital with me. I mean, not with me, but it's like his mom, separate deal, but same hospital. But we kind of we formed a friendship, started kind of that way, but then he was playing guitar at a very young age, and I'd been taking piano lessons. My folks had all the kids take lessons, so. I had music coursing through me. David showed this interest in guitar. I was playing piano, and we just sort of naturally gravitated toward each other. And by the 5th grade, we had a band. So it was like, it was never a question. Like my brother, and most everyone around me are like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? It's like, I saw Elton John. Really, it started with the Beatles, but as soon as I saw Elton John, I said, "Well, guy sitting down playing piano, I'll be him." So I didn't. It wasn't. It could have been lawn mowing, but it turned out to be. It turned out to be playing piano and carrying on, and yeah, I know it's been. It never was really a question. My father would probably have liked me to be an engineer. He was a chief tool designer for the Boeing company.
Oh, right.
And so he, I would go up to the plant and see, him working, and he tried to encourage me that way. Mm-hmm. And there's part of me that I think, like Shannon, I think there's part of me that is an engineer. I'm a musical engineer.
You are.
For sure.
And that's your drafting board in front of you. And yeah.
So yeah.
It's funny though. Yeah. Since George and I had gotten together early on, for about a decade there, every year or so, his dad would say, to George, would you like to go to drafting school? You know?
Yeah.
So just in case your music career is faltering. So he'd bring that up about once a year. And George would slightly decline.
Yeah.
But his dad was very supportive.
He was actually, and they were supportive of this music thing we were doing. It was a little bit on the fringes of reality for them to think that I was going to spend my life doing that.
Yes.
So they kind of figured at some point, I'd come back down to earth and we need to get a real job. And I never did. I never got a real job.
So
although whenever I fill out one of those forms, I always enjoy putting the occupation songwriter. That's always been fun.
Nice.
I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. There must be a nice feeling of like peace and satisfaction around that. Like this is actually it. This is that's
one
cool.
One thing I do. I write songs.
Right. Well, and then the next question often on any kind of forum is, how long have you been at that occupation?
That's always such a big question.
That number keeps growing.
And ever growing. Yeah, I know. 70
years. So speaking of like kind of how long and stuff, like when you guys first started like working together, essentially when you first met, I believe you were like gigging musicians, right? You were like performing, and were you performing together or separately, or
the aforementioned David and I were we were a duo. We were called Sparrow. Yeah. Shannon played crosstown in a band called Paloma.
Okay, and this is in Seattle, right?
This is in Seattle, Seattle, Washington.
We obviously had a bird theme going on.
Yeah. And David and I wanted to add a member to the band. We had tryouts, and Shannon won with flying colors. It was obviously going to be her.
Awesome, cool.
Shannon joined Sparrow, and then we booted David out eventually, and.
Yeah, and off you went. And how long did it take you then to move to LA? Was it? Were you doing stuff in Seattle for a few years first, or?
Yeah, we were playing clubs, really up and down the West Coast, but mainly Washington and Oregon. Steakhouses and things like that, playing in the bars.
Yeah,
we weren't really playing taverns because we were, more of a listening type thing. So
yes,
we played in the cocktail lounges.
Shannon, I can remember a couple of places. There was one in Eastern Washington, which is a little bit more of a farm country area, and they had chicken wire in front of the stage, and they did that because people would throw bottles.
Oh my God! The authentic Blues Brothers experience. That scene.
Yeah. So we definitely had a few moments like that where but we probably had no business being there, but. Yeah, just keep playing. Yeah, just keep playing. Play faster.
Play louder.
Yeah. Myself and a buddy of mine had a situation like that a number of years ago back in Ireland, where we were playing in Clifton, a town outside of Galway, where my dad was born, actually, Clifton, and we were playing in this pub there every Saturday. But one week it was quite, it was pretty packed. There was a festival on in the town, and there was people drinking all day, and literally it just broke out like in a movie. Like it was almost like they were shooting a movie and they were extras, it was that bad, It was like, it couldn't be more cliched. But like me, it was my friend Dave who was playing with me, just looking at each other like literally, like we can't really do anything, like just keep going. Make it funny, maybe, because if there's something horrific happening, a bit of comedic music can confuse people.
Yeah.
I really get those moments, and you'll start out and maybe it's a little quieter in your first set or the beginning of your first set, and then you reach that second set and you realize there's just this horrendous din around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody's listening or paying any attention, and
the old set list is out the window, and you've just got to either keep repeating. If you only have one or two good songs, you just got to stick with those. just hammer them home over and over again.
Exactly.
Like, bam, bam.
Yeah. I'm sure people listening to this podcast, I know I am like, I've spoken to you guys about this a couple of times before, but I know people would be very curious about how you made your step into songwriting, from because obviously Boy Meets Girl, the band, as in the artists, the band that you sent me, the early Boy Meets Girl, a video of a performance of Oh Girl, and from Dick Clark, right? We're going to get to that era for sure, but which is just incredible. I have so much to say about that, by the way, and the music video. But when did the idea start? The penny start dropping about like writing songs for others along your journey?
We were playing in Corona del Mar in California, Southern California. We had a gig there I think we had a few gigs lined up. So we were there for about 3 months. So we'd rented a house that would be central to all those different gigs. And it had basically, some sleeping bags on the floors and a piano.
That was it for the furniture, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was in another room, and I think David was with us also, but he was doing something else. And so George had sat down at the piano and started playing, and I just loved what he was playing. So I just kind of came like dancing in with my little notebook and started singing and writing kind of simultaneously. And my stream of consciousness lyrics just fit right into what George was playing. And we called the song Good Exchange because that was the chorus.
Perfect.
So that was kind of the fortuitous start to writing, because we looked at each other after this song wrote itself in, like 20 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was such
that
a
was
cut
easy
above.
And that was fun.
Yeah, it was a cut above, and I think it was also fun because the song, as I think about it now, it was a breakaway from anything that I'd ever done before with David, and in co-writing with him. It was a more right from the start, just the way it was. It was had more energy. It wasn't as the actual groove to the song, and the lyric was more forward moving and aggressive and tight. It's like it was just on a whole other level right off the bat. So
there's something about that magic that, again, magic comes up again, but there's something about what exists between people, like in that space between people. It's like the sum of the parts kind of thing. There's something just incredible that happens if both people are tuned in, I guess. Yeah,
and it was definitely a sum of the parts thing. That's very well said. And it surprised us both, because I had only ever written by myself. I'd never written with anyone else, and George had only, I think, written with David and maybe some other people, but it was just a complete surprise, and like, oh, okay, then I'm going there.
Yeah.
Hello, folks. It's me, the Patreon fairy. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I would just like to say that if you subscribe on patreon.com/Emmet O'Malley, that is EMMET OMALLEY, he will be very happy, because he will be able to continue making these podcasts. You will get over 2.5 years worth of exclusive material immediately by signing up. Also, you will get one podcast per week that you can't get anywhere else. It's called Private Pod, and you will get exclusive music and videos every month. Sign up at patreon.com/Emmet O'Malley.
And when did it when did the opportunity to actually reach out and try to get like published with your writing? Like, did you do like a bunch of songs for a period of time before you sent off a demo, or how did that come about?
Well, both of us had started. We had separately started recording our music. A year or so prior to this, in Seattle. And then we got together with this core band, Sparrow, the three of us, and we recorded a little EP. Actually, it'd be fun to I should transfer that to digital at some point if I could get a little 45 player. But those 4 songs that we did were fully produced in a studio with the help of a guy named Jim Brado, and Jim Brado has been a thread throughout our entire life. In fact, he's orchestrating the songs, 3 of the songs on 5.
Ah, okay. I was going to ask you about that.
It's been a very long.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's been a long relationship with him, and so he's. We've oftentimes referred to him as our fame guide, because he at real crucial junctures along the way has said and offered his guidance to us, and taught us about how to record and such. So we started recording at home some of the things we were doing, but we got together with Jim and did another full production in Seattle at one of the really great studios called K Smith, and we had David. At that point, I think we had broken away from David, and he came in and sang some backing vocals but it was like Yours and My Song. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think at that point, we had come back from that Southern California trip, and so at that point, that's really when everything started. And I've been yammering. You go ahead and take it from here about Tom Bell and how he affected us.
Tom Bell was in the studio when we were recording these demos with our friend Jim. And I think that Jim mentioned to Tom, hey, you might want to feel free to drop in and hear these guys I'm working with. And
yes.
So Tom did, and he approached us about writing for his publishing company that he was setting up in Seattle that time.
And for any of you who
had been from
might not know who he is, look up Tom Bell, Google search Tom Bell, because he was part of
THOM.
Yeah, and he was part of all the wonderful music that was coming out of Philadelphia, R&B music, cool. Stylistics and the OJs, and beautifully written and produced songs.
Right.
Timeless stuff.
Okay.
So we were well familiar with his influence, the Philly sound and his influence in that, and over the music that we'd grown up listening to also. Yeah. So we spent a few years writing in his little writing offices down in Pioneer Square in Seattle. We didn't get a whole bunch of traction from that, but it was a really excellent mentoring and learning experience.
We learned so much from him and the opportunities that were presented there, recording opportunities too.
Right.
Is this where Denise Williams' opportunity happens, or is that something later?
It's because of that directly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Tom Bell was producing Denise Williams at the time. He did a beautiful record with her called My Melody.
Yeah.
And George played keyboards, and you sang some background vocals, right, George?
I did, and played synthesizer. Yeah, it was a again, formative time, to be in sessions with 11 other musicians in the studio. We're all playing down. It's not like overdubs. That happens later in my life, in our lives. But it's a whole other level when you're in the room with professional musicians. You have to figure out a way to relax and remember the reason why you're there is because you're gifted. There's no reason why you'd be in that room if you hadn't, had a reason for being there. So,
yes.
Yeah.
So you get put your willies off to the side and and try to be in the moment and have a good time. Man, it was so much fun. I'll never forget. Denise Williams sang her vocals live. Many of the records
That's
vocals.
amazing.
Yeah, the title song, My Melody, was her first take. And
while you guys were playing the live track also?
Wow.
She went back in and did a couple of repairs, and but it's not like auto tune or anything like that. Those are her vocals.
Yeah, I'm really curious to go and listen to that now after this. That'll be really cool. You know what I'm going to do as well? I'm going to put together a Spotify playlist of all the songs we mentioned in this interview, and I'm going to tag it underneath. So basically, anybody who's listening to this, just go to the description and whatever format you're listening to, you get a playlist of all the tunes we're talking about. That'll be cool.
So cool. I love that. Yeah.
Brilliant.
A little sonic map.
Yeah. So, please, I would love to know how Will I Know come about? When did that happen in this process?
We, as inevitably you can when you live in Seattle, we reached one of those Februarys where the sky was hanging low and gray, and it wouldn't rain. The air pressure was just oppressive, and the barometric pressure, I should say. And so we just looked at each other and said, we're moving to California. Our famed guy, Jim Brado, had moved there and started an advertising business. And we thought, we're going. Yeah. And we'll have plan B, that if, we have some money set aside and if we need to come back with our tails between our legs.
Exactly.
So we went to Los Angeles in our yellow van. And
what year is this, by the way?
1982. Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's the year before Hillary was born. Yeah.
And that's my year, 82. That's when I was born.
Yeah.
Nice,
cool.
So we drove down there. We parked ourselves in a place called Tarzana. It was great.
Our backyard, we had donkeys.
Donkeys,
chickens, which you'd never equate those things with Los Angeles. I'm just mentioning it because it was so. We had
bizarre.
In Seattle, we were living on a property up there with 15 acres, and we had peacocks and horses, and you can kind of picture that with Seattle.
They weren't our horses; they were just running by the neighboring property.
This is just a rural place we lived. It wasn't. This is not a fancy home by any chance. It was not ours. We were just renting. But when we went to Los Angeles, to have animals out back, and it's just, I don't know.
Tarzana's in the San Fernando Valley in California, in Los Angeles, and it's pretty much wall-to-wall houses and strip malls and things. So to find this little pocket of where this house that was for rent that we moved into, to have livestock in the neighboring yards was just hilarious. So
it was.
We moved there. We started singing ads. We were making demos in our living room.
Eating a lot of macaroni and cheese and peanut butter, things that could, like, subsistence foods that could get us by.
Yeah.
And again, the piano was about the only furniture, and a picnic table. And we made these demos. We sent them out. And then we kind of forgot about them. We sent them to record companies because it was our heart's desire to have a record deal.
Oh, now one thing I might add is that our fortunes did pick up a little bit, because our fame guide would hire us to sing adverts.
Okay,
and there was one national ad for a product called Armor All.
Right. What was Armor All?
And, it's like this stuff
leather and car cleaner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And come on, people, one and all, everyone can use a little Armor All, protecting, beautifying, most of all, it's satisfying. Armor All. Once it's sprayed, it gets down inside, and something about lasting when it's applied. Man,
that's definitely going on the start of the Spotify playlist. Only joke.
Yes.
You know what? Chances are everything's Google. You can find it. I'm sure. Go ahead, Google it. Anyway, so we, our fortunes did pick up a bit, and then Shannon, I digress. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Then we discovered how hot it was in Tarzana and the San Fernando Valley, and we were a couple of Seattleites, wilting all the time. So we were clued into Venice, California. So we moved down near the ocean and rented a house there. And then we were on tour with Denise at the time, and I was pregnant. And then a couple of weeks after our daughter was born, George picked up the phone when it rang, and it was Aaron Jacobus at A&M Records. He'd actually listened to our little cassette tape we'd sent him.
Nice.
Yeah, we'd sent it like 2 or 3 months prior. So we hadn't given up, but it was kind of past the time that you'd think you'd hear back. So
yeah, it's funny that little detail is very interesting, because I find like exciting, wonderful things seem to have a pattern of happening like that, like it's gone, I give up kind of thing, as in like not like actively like I'm closing the door, but like just moving on, let's say, and then it's like, oh, that thing 6 months ago, I got it.
It's like that. I mean, I remember when George got off the phone and said, "You won't believe this," who I was talking to, but and my thought was, oh, but we have this 2-week-old daughter. All I want to do is be a mom, Yeah,
right.
I thought that.
Yeah, we've kind of moved on to other things now.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
But
So
actually,
we ended up getting a publishing deal anyway through that, and then the recording deal, and How Will I Know came through the publishing company, because Jerry Griffiths with Arista Records was looking for songs for this wonderful new singer called Whitney Houston, who nobody but them knew about.
Yes.
And and before that, they'd said, "Does anybody have something for Janet Jackson?" So we'd written How Will I Know, thinking of Janet Jackson's kind of airy voice. So we did sort of an airy demo,
Cool.
And then she was working on her, So she was working on her Control album at the time, which was diametrically different than How Will I Know? And, what a cool concept album that turned out to be for her.
Yeah.
So they passed on it, and then it ended up going via Brenda Andrews at our publishing company to Jerry Griffith and Clive Davis.
Wow, cool. And so and the process of like from so there's this period of like, obviously, almost putting it down. A response comes back a number of months later, unexpected, and then from there to actually hearing How Will I Know sung by Whitney Houston come out the speakers of a radio. Like, what? Describe to me that moment.
Well, actually, even prior to
it restyled our hair.
Yeah, and actually,
yeah, I imagine.
And prior to hearing it, Shannon, help fill this in, if you will. Like, How Will I Know was produced by Narda Michael Walden. But prior to that, Clive and Jerry Griffith really liked the song for Whitney Houston, and they flew me back to meet a guy named Kashif, who had produced 2 songs for Whitney, You Give Good Love and another one.
Okay,
I think You Give Good Love turned out to be a hit for her, one of her first hits. And so I flew back to New York, and I was hanging out with Kashif and listening. He was playing me all these vocals of this, this amazing singer, but I didn't know, anything about her. There was this, exciting buzz. But at the time, both Shannon and I were so excited about the idea of the prospect of doing our own record as Boy Meets Girl.
Yeah.
I passed on the idea of working with Kashif on it. And as it turns out, he really had his own direction that he was doing. It would have been, tough for the two of us to manage a production. So we shelved that idea. And then Clive and Jerry Griffith came up with the idea of approaching Narda. And as it turns out, Narda wasn't sure he really had time for it.
He was busy too.
Yeah, there's an interview with him as well, but it turns out obviously he knew exactly what to do. And some of our friends actually were working with Nard at the time. They called us up, and this is long-winded. I'm coming around to answering how we heard it.
That's great.
We got a call from Preston Glass, and he was in the studio. They had just finished recording Whitney Houston, and he said, "You guys, you got to stop what you're doing, and you got to listen to this for a second."
Wow,
he held up the
you got a
phone.
preview. Wow.
And it was like a rough mix, and her voice came jumping out of the you can imagine it was the chorus vocal, and when it just came jumping out of the phone.
Oh my God.
You know, I'm getting chills telling it, because it was still one of the most amazing moments.
Yeah, we had never imagined anything like that, or someone like that singing one of our songs. Truly,
Right.
never even envisioned that. And so to hear that be, the out of the blocks song that it was just mind-boggling.
Yeah, the combination of Narda and Whitney coming together for that, it was such a great combination for all of our joy.
Yes.
Yeah. It just sounds like just an unbelievable moment. And one thing I really love about the process of recording music and creating music is that until that recording is down, until say a vocal or an instrument or a melody, whatever way it's done on that day, whatever mood that person's in or whatever the vibe is on that day, it could be anything. It's almost like once you have let's say the main melody or the main idea of what you're doing, fine, and then going into it with your emotion and how you're delivering it on whatever instrument or vocal, whatever random state is happening in that moment, it's going to be etched in time historically forever. And it could be something that's half improvised at times. There could be a little bit of a feel that comes up that is really of the moment, but that's something then that goes into people's consciousness on the radio or just over the years as a solid thing. It's so bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah, you said that really well. That's one of the things that we felt, and it was that combination. And just recently, within the last couple of years, Narda did an interview where he talked about the actual recording of How Will I Know.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Pardon me. No, I think
that was I Want to Dance with Somebody.
It was about I Want to Dance with Somebody. Yeah. So I don't know if he's done the same thing with How Will I Know, but it was interesting to hear when he talks about I Want to Dance with Somebody, because it's like Whitney just took over. She just took over that vocal,
and she's apparently a one-take singer also.
Same sort of thing, as Denise Williams,
and she just seemed like at that time and in the 90s as well, whatever, just her in general, she was like a force of nature, to be reckoned with. I saw one of those interviews with Narda, Michael Walden, and it seemed to be he's in the studio, she comes in, and he's just, okay, let's go. As in, he doesn't have to do anything. She just goes in and does her thing. And apparently on How Will I Know as well, I think Sissy Houston is on that too, on BVs as well.
Her
and
mom.
It's just it's a moment in music history, really. It's just it's just I just love that song. I love that song. And when back years ago, when I was talking to you guys about possibly doing some filming and stuff like that, I had this sequence in my mind. I'll tell you about it some other time, of including that song, that video into you guys living your lives, and then go straight into this other world. It's the magic thing again. It's just tapping into something. It's it's unreal. I guess it's important to remember as well that this stuff is going on kind of almost as a sideshow to what you're actually doing at the time back then, which was Boy Meets Girl was an official project at that time. Was you were going for it. I watched this amazing amazing performance on who was it again? Dick Clark show.
Which
American Bandstand. It was a huge show in
1985.
for us, as we got familiar with promoting our albums later on and came to the UK and we were so excited about the idea of being on this show called Top of the Pops, and we realized that was the pinnacle at the time, and it was like a super exciting moment for us. In the States, the equation is American Bandstand with Dick Clark. And so to have that moment that, with him, that's again one of those moments that both Shannon and I treasure, that we got a chance to actually be there for that.
It's a shame that I can't just like put a bit of a clip of that on here, for people to see it. But like I'm sure they can find it if they look for it. But the performance on American Bandstand, what I saw in that moment was I saw two like young, hungry, dynamic, artists basically just doing their thing. It was clicking perfectly. There's something about it. It was really cool. It was really joy to watch it. Oh Girl, the keytar, very interesting. I haven't seen that in a while, but it's nice. Yeah. You got it.
You know what? I do, but it's not here.
Okay, no worries.
I know where it is.
And Shannon, the one thing I'll say as well is like the earrings are incredible as well. Really, like you both looked amazing. I showed it to my partner Becky, and we were kind of like, it's kind of like pirate chic. A little bit.
Yeah, and it was so 80s. I mean, everything was just so over the top there.
I know.
And the makeup, my crimped hair, the big shouldered clothing, and just everything about it. It's hilarious.
You could wear this, and you could wear this too, and you could do this, and you could do this with your hair. And it was a great combination.
I really need to. I guess something I'm very curious about. I can only imagine there has to be. And back at that time, there has to be a sense of fun to all of that,
Oh, absolutely.
Because I think that's what people don't get, when they look at stuff.
No, it was.
It was a party time era, even if you didn't write party music, it was just party time. It was just think big.
Yes.
Think big visually, sonically, every way you can think of,
And it may look absurd, but it was like, what envelope?
Yeah.
There is no envelope.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it.
And it was going on around the world. I mean, we were getting pushed by things that we were seeing coming out of England. ABC was going off, and we were going, oh man, those guys are cool. Listen to that.
Yeah.
So there was all sorts of things going back and forth. People talk about that back in the 60s, but it was going on in the 80s, same thing.
Yeah, I love it. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
And it was drug-fueled time, not so much in our case because we had a child and that just wasn't really our propensity, but lots of drugs everywhere, and if they weren't present in the studio or on your video set, the people that you'd hired to come in would be disappointed.
They were kind of expecting to be paid.
Yeah, exactly. No, it does have that sense, the kind of, is the word opulence of that decade or something, it's very much so.
And exuberance, I think.
There's something as well, like I love that sound, I love that look, I love the whole thing, and I always thought when I was growing up in the 90s as like a teenager or whatever, I always thought like, I wish I had been like 10 years older because I wanted to be, when I see these old videos and stuff. But there's something about even the music, when you think about it, these big reverbs and stuff, or these gated kind of sounds and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like suggesting, if you were just to sit with your headphones on or something, it's kind of suggesting these people are playing their music in their mansion, because that's how it sounds. I play my drums.
Yeah, totally, exactly.
You do 20 tracks of background vocals and things. There was never just one track. It was just so many layers just to pound.
Yeah,
it was big. And it was but that was part of the, where are the limits? And, at the tail end of all of that, the next American music scene that came out. Well, I mean, there are a number of different things. I mean, rap, and hip hop was starting to make its way into the vernacular of everyone and influence all music. Grunge, also took over, and so and that whole scene died a very quick death, really. And then we moved into other things, but it is fascinating. We've been really fascinated to be where we're at now, feeling some of our brightness that we felt at that time.
It's cool.
And it's coming out in our music, and it's been fascinating to go back and archive some of those old songs, go back and talk with you, tell some stories and relive, remember some of all that, and how different it was, in largely a good way, I would say. I know for us, I would say. Yeah,
I love it, and I love that you guys are so open to kind of talking about all that stuff too, because it is fascinating for people. It is really interesting, and the other one of the other childhood memories I have about one of your songs, "Waiting for a Star to Fall," of course, which is like Boy Meets Girl. Such a huge hit towards the end of the 80s, and so it's like you had the huge hits with Whitney Houston, but "Oh Girl," of course, your first single was a top 40 hit, which we can't forget that. It's an amazing song. It's an amazing song, and it's kind of like when I listen to your old albums, it's kind of any of these could be hits, it's just there's so much there that it's kind of only some of them can be, but that "Waiting for Star to Fall," I remember coming out of the cinema called the Claddagh Palace in Galway, where I'm from.
Say that name again. What was it?
The Claddagh Palace was the name of the cinema.
Claddagh Palace.
It's no longer there. It was this old time cinema, and like a kind of really nice old place that's long gone. But I believe that it was 3 men and a little lady, or 3 men and a baby, something like that. And I remember hearing that song at the end of that movie. I remember that song being in my mind for years. The song has kind of followed me around. I absolutely love it. It's got that kind of joyful, like magic, like all these other ones as well. The question I want to ask you is just kind of a funny question. Do you ever, because you have all these huge songs out there in people's consciousness, you hear them maybe going, into the supermarket, you'd hear them like, at a party, whatever. Do you ever hear them on the radio all the time? Do you ever feel like you're living in a simulation?
All the time.
Like this is weird. These are my emotions on national radio all around the world again.
I love that.
Like,
I'm glad we can talk about this, because I've never been able to talk to anyone about this.
Yeah, it must be a bit strange, like, but how is your relationship with that, with hearing your stuff just going out and about? Is it exciting anymore, or is it just like, oh, that's cool, or what is it?
It's wondrous. It's always wondrous, and it always catches me by surprise. I hear it, and the song can get in either any of the songs that are playing. We'll get a few bars in it, and I'll realize, oh, we wrote that song. But, it doesn't happen right away. It's like it sneaks up on me still.
Yes. Same.
So I have a good relationship with it. It's still like I want to jump around and tell everyone near me, oh, I wrote that.
I love that that's the case, actually. That's amazing.
I same as Shannon, it never gets old, and I get all excited just like that. But I've recently made the mistake, in the grocery store line or something like that, kind of walking up, kind of all proud. Yeah, that's me. I'm singing that. I did that. And they look at this old guy, and they're kind of going, wow, What? Yeah, that's great, old man. That's great. Good for you. Good for you. And just kind of move along. So, so I realize this is probably not something I should be like being a braggart about.
Oh, you can. I think just start whistling. Just bring in the whistling.
Yeah, that's true.
Sort it out every time. You know?
Anybody can do that. So I don't know. Anyway. That's the lovely thing about whistling.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. I can't whistle actually.
Come on.
No,
Give it a
I
shot.
actually can't. No, it's the one thing I could never do, and I've tried like all my life. Unfortunately, the best I get is it's just going to sound creepy on the microphone, so I'm not even.
Okay, that's not a good idea.
No, I've lost my whistle too. I used to be able to. Well, my mom was a whistler, so I had a decent whistle, and then now it's completely gone away. And then I could whistle, like making my tongue a certain shape and through my teeth. And then I had some dental work done, and my whistle was gone.
No,
Just like that,
Wow.
Oh,
that's a loss.
Yeah,
Your mom did have a great whistle.
she did.
Yeah, she did. She had a little. She could make it kind of.
It had a trill. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the it's a pro. When you're in the hands of a pro when you have that little twirl.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. I think we're getting kind of close to the end now, but I just to kind of bring it around to now and like your day to day, and I think I want to kind of ask this question through the song "Everything New" that's on the new EP 5. By the way, anybody who's listening to this, the EP is out on the 5th of March. So that's going to be in a couple of days when this podcast comes out. And get it wherever you can. Download it, stream it, buy it, share it, tell everybody about it. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of work by two of the best living songwriters that are there, and I bloody love it.
Kind.
No, it's absolutely true. But there's something that this sounds to me, and I could be complete, but it just feels to me. Well, actually, if you were going to run around the supermarket whistling and dancing, I would do it to Everything New. It seems like a basically gratitude is what comes to mind. It's like the gratitude for everything, and
exactly.
And I think gratitude is like just the greatest tool that we have. Like if a friend of mine a few years ago recommended that I do a gratitude list every night. And it's like I do that, I still do it, and it's like the best thing that I do, of a day. If I can get to that, just to know that just the simple things are in place.
What a nice way to tie up the day by going back over the day. Am I hearing it right that you go over the day and you kind of think of the things that you are
grateful for? Yeah,
Okay.
The things that are here right now and all the simple things and it could be complicated things actually, but it's often just simple things, especially if it's a pretty if it's not a great day, there's always the things that I will forget about. And I was just going to ask you both, and whoever wants to go first, it's up to you, but tell me about some of the gratitude that you are experiencing these days, in this kind of strange time in the world. You're just putting out new music after a few years. Tell me about what makes you, I guess, get up in the morning and feel good about this world and this life.
There's so much. I would say for both of us, our gratitude cups runneth over in every sense. I'm just, and I practice that same thing, Emmet. Acknowledging the things I'm grateful for almost daily. And it comes down to the simplest things, but it's usually the people I love, people who love me, and, just the oxygen I breathe. It's like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this last year being like one that none of us on planet Earth have ever, unless you're really old and you've gone through another pandemic. I mean, we as an Earth have experienced this new thing, and it caused disconnection and it caused separation in situations that we took for granted. And I think one of the things that I've felt is that acutely. And so I am so in gratitude for those moments when they occur now, because we still have separation. It's still going on. It still will go on for longer. But as we can connect with you, and other people throughout our lives, the value of it is deeper now. I don't take it for granted. If I did, I don't anymore.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, I love everything that you guys just said. And I echo that in this kind of time of separation. It's when I guess we are prompted to do anything we can do to connect. And such as this, because we were going to do some other stuff a few years ago. Travel complications got in the way on my side, and now we're here, and this is really cool. Like, this has been really lovely. I think
it's wonderful. I feel like we finally got to do something we've been wanting to do for years, so it's great.
Yeah, and against more odds even, and we've made the connection. Thank you for making that effort towards us, and it just really is so life affirming.
Okay, folks, that was cool. Really happy to have had that opportunity to talk to Shannon and George. Thank you so much, Boy Meets Girl. Thanks for being on the podcast. And everybody, go and listen to their new EP 5. It's wonderful. And also enjoy their hits from the past and their old albums. There's a bunch of albums I see already up there on Spotify from their back catalogue. So yeah, go and check out all that incredible songwriting over the years. Thank you so much for listening to the show, folks. Remember, catch up with me on youtube.com/Emmet O'Malley Music. Also Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. It's all there, Emmet O'Malley Music. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Give me a review and a rating. I would really appreciate it. And I will see you next week for Resonating with Emmet O'Malley. Goodbye.